Kieran sat in his small quarters aboard the orbital station, staring at the control panels in front of him. The hum of the station's engines filled the room like a constant heartbeat. Outside the window, the planet below shimmered in shades of green and blue, half covered by clouds. Another day in space was ending, but tonight felt different. He had that strange feeling like something or someone was about to appear. He shook his head and tried to focus on calibrating the station's energy grids. The work required concentration, but his thoughts kept wandering. He glanced at the door, which was firmly closed, and muttered to himself, "Probably just me imagining things. I need sleep." A soft, almost melodic creak sounded as the door slid open. Kieran froze. That wasn't supposed to happen. Only authorized personnel had access to his quarters, and the security system had been working perfectly all day. Then he saw her. She stepped inside slowly, almost floating with a grace that seemed unnatural for someone or something human. Her skin glimmered faintly under the station's lights, shifting colors slightly like a living prism. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, and her movements had a playful rhythm as if she were dancing while walking. Kieran blinked. Who are you?" The alien didn't answer in words. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him with interest. Her long cloak, shimmering with iridescent patterns, slid from her shoulders and fell to the floor. It wasn't a provocative gesture. It was like she was freeing herself from unnecessary weight, revealing a suit designed for movement, sleek and functional. Then, with a quick laugh that echoed like soft chimes, she leapt forward, passing over Kieran to reach the control panel. "Hey, you've got some wires all wrong here," she said in broken but understandable galactic basic. Kieran stumbled backward, heart racing. "Wait, how did you—" The alien laughed again, a sound that was almost contagious. Her eyes twinkled. "Relax, human. I just want to see." He rubbed his temples. "See, what? Who are you?" "My name is Leary," she said, finally giving him a proper introduction. "I came from far away." Very far, Kieran's mind raced. Aliens were known to visit stations occasionally, but direct, unannounced entry into someone's private quarters? That was almost unheard of. "Okay, Leary, far away. But why here? Why now?" Leary hopped lightly onto a chair, her movements almost like acrobatics. "Curiosity. You humans, so many gadgets. I wanted to see, learn." She gestured at his tools and devices. "Play, fix, learn?" Kieran relaxed slightly. Despite the shock, there was something about her presence that was interesting. She wasn't threatening. She was playful. He realized then that he had never encountered a species quite like her, intelligent, curious, and full of humor. "Well, if you want to see, you have to promise not to touch the core systems," he said, pointing at the energy console. "It's delicate. One wrong move and the whole station blows up." Leary finished for him, grinning. "I see humans are dramatic, fun." Kieran laughed nervously. "You could say that." She leaned over the console, her fingers hovering above the panels. "Tell me, why wire's red, not blue?" Kieran scratched his head. "It's just convention. Red for power, blue for control. Makes sense to us humans." Leary tilted her head again, thoughtful. Different logic, different thinking. "I like." She pressed a few buttons, causing a small holographic display to light up. Interesting. Your system works differently. Good human design." Kieran stepped closer, cautiously impressed. You know a lot for just wandering in my room." "I know. Many things. Many places. But I like this place, compact, simple, efficient." She hopped down and landed lightly on the floor, her movements almost silent. "But humans, funny, serious, laugh? Yes, laugh good. Important." Kieran couldn't help but chuckle. Her energy was infectious. Despite the surprise of the visit, despite the invasion of privacy, he felt alive. He realized that humans had always been explorers, dreamers, tinkerers. Leary's curiosity reminded him of something he had almost forgotten, the thrill of encountering the unknown. "Okay, Leary, you want to learn about humans and their gadgets?" Kieran asked. "I can show you some things. But careful. Some of this is sensitive." Leary clapped her hands in delight. "Yes, show. Learn, play. Good human, yes?" Kieran guided her to a workstation that controlled some minor systems of the station. Not critical. "This one is safe. You can try adjusting some settings here. See what happens." She leaned close, her head almost brushing his shoulder, and tapped a few buttons. The lights in the room changed color, and small robotic maintenance drones scuttled out to correct minor errors she had caused. Leary laughed, a musical sound, and hopped over Kieran to inspect another console. "Careful," Kieran exclaimed, but he couldn't suppress a grin. Her laughter, her fearless curiosity, it was strange, but it made him feel proud. Here was a creature from another world, and she was learning from him. Not by force, not by intimidation, but by play. Leary paused at a small panel near the window. She looked out at the planet below, eyes wide. Wow, colors. Strange. Your world. Green, blue, beautiful. Kieran followed her gaze. Yes, it's Earth below. Or a colony planet. Depends on perspective. She tilted her head again, thoughtful. Perspective, humans. Interesting, clever, funny, brave, yes, brave. The word surprised him. Brave? Could humans really be seen that way by another species? He had always thought of humans as fragile, prone to mistakes. But through Leary's eyes, maybe they were something more. You think humans are brave? He asked cautiously. Leary looked at him, eyes sparkling. Yes, you survive space. You survive machines. You survive yourselves. She laughed softly. Brave, good. Kieran felt a warmth in his chest. It was strange, hearing another species admire humanity for qualities he often took for granted. Thank you, he said quietly. I never thought of it like that. Leary hopped onto the bed, carefully as if testing gravity, and leaned back, still laughing. Fun human room, simple, order, chaos? No, good chaos. Kieran shook his head, smiling despite himself. You really are strange, you know that? Strange. Yes, strange. Fun. Learn? Play? Leary asked. He nodded. Yes, I think we can do that. For the rest of the night, Kieran taught Leary how to adjust minor systems, how to operate small drones, and how to use the holographic interfaces. She learned quickly, often faster than him and always with a laugh or a playful comment. Every so often, she would leap over him to reach a console or spin around a chair just for fun, and he would shake his head in disbelief, laughing along. Somewhere in the back of his mind, Kieran realized this night would be remembered, not for danger or disaster, but for the joy of encountering something utterly new. An alien from a distant world full of laughter and curiosity had entered his life. And somehow he felt inspired. The hum of the station continued, steady and unchanging, but inside his small quarters, a new energy had been introduced, one of excitement, wonder, and a promise of adventures yet to come. As Kieran finally leaned back in his chair, exhausted but happy, Leary perched nearby, her eyes glowing softly. Good human. Learn more tomorrow, yes? Yes, Kieran replied with a grin. We'll learn. Together. And with that, the first night of an unexpected friendship came to an end. Outside, the planet below continued its silent orbit, unaware of the small room in a distant station, where two very different beings had discovered the thrill of curiosity, laughter, and the extraordinary potential of connection. The morning light filtered through the station's windows, painting the room in soft shades of silver and blue. Kieran sat at his workstation, sipping a cup of recycled coffee, still thinking about the previous night. Leary had stayed in his quarters until the early hours, exploring every gadget, laughing at every minor surprise, and teasing him in a way that was somehow both mischievous and endearing. He shook his head. I've never met anyone like her. Anyone, period. A soft shimmer appeared near the doorway, and Leary materialized. Her usual playful grin stretched across her face. Good morning, human. Ready to learn more? Ready to play? Kieran smiled, setting his cup aside. Morning, Leary. I'm ready, but I think today will be a little more challenging. You've learned a lot already, but I want to show you something. Special? Leary tilted her head, curiosity shining in her eyes. Special? Yes, show. Teach, human clever. He led her to a section of the station that housed a series of advanced maintenance puzzles. These devices were part of the station's internal diagnostics, tools meant to test logic, creativity, and problem-solving skills. Normally, only senior engineers worked with them, but Kieran had modified a few units to be safe for experimentation. This is called the grid solver, he explained. It's a puzzle we use to check if all the systems are working correctly. You have to reroute energy flows without overloading any of the circuits. Sounds simple, but it's tricky. Leary's eyes sparkled. Tricky challenge. I like. She bounded forward, landing lightly in front of the console. Show me. Kieran gestured to the holographic interface. Here's how it works. Each node can carry a certain amount of energy. You have to connect them in the right order so the system balances. One mistake, and the circuit resets. Leary's fingers danced over the holographic panels. Her touch was precise, quick, and almost musical. She rearranged the nodes, connected energy flows, and adjusted the circuits faster than Kieran expected. Every so often, she yelled pause and tilt her head, studying the patterns within. The next morning, the station was bathed in soft golden light from the distant sun. Kieran walked down the narrow corridors toward the docking hub, where Leary was already waiting. She hovered slightly above the floor, her luminous eyes scanning the walls and ceiling as if memorizing every detail. "Good morning, human," she chirped, landing gracefully. "Ready for adventure? I see secrets here." "Yes," Kieran laughed, shaking his head. "You never stop, do you?" "Okay, yes. There are parts of this station most humans never visit. I'll show you, but we have to be careful. Some areas are unstable." Leary clapped her hands. "Careful. Good fun. We explore. Together." They began their journey through the station's labyrinthine corridors. The walls hummed with energy, conduits carrying power to vital systems, while the occasional maintenance drone zipped past, beeped, and continued on its programmed route. Kieran led Leary through passages that most crew members would never think to enter: ventilation shafts, service corridors, and hidden maintenance rooms. "Humans are small," Leary said suddenly, peering into a cramped maintenance tunnel. "But you're clever. Build big, solve problems." Kieran smiled. "Small, yes. Clever, I hope so. But this station is proof. Humans can build amazing things." As they moved, Leary's curiosity never wavered. She examined every panel, every exposed wire, every strange device with fascination. Sometimes she would leap over Kieran to reach a console, or spin in the air to inspect a sensor from above. Every movement was playful yet purposeful, as if she was learning not just how the station worked, but also why humans built it this way. Eventually, they reached a section of the station sealed off from regular crew access. A thick metal door blocked the corridor with a console beside it indicating restricted access. "This is the old core maintenance room," Kieran explained. "It hasn't been used in decades. Only senior engineers have the codes to enter, but I've kept a backup key." Leary's eyes widened. "Old? Secrets? Yes. We enter. Adventure." Kieran entered the override code, and the door hissed open. The room beyond was dimly lit, filled with machinery covered in dust, cables snaking along the walls like silver veins. Strange devices hummed faintly, their purpose long forgotten. "Wow," Leary whispered, moving cautiously through the room. "Humans that make machines, many machines, work together. Harmony." Kieran nodded. "Yes, every system here had a purpose. Even old tech can teach you something if you pay attention." They explored the room, examining panels and devices, trying small experiments without triggering any malfunctions. Leary's laughter rang out often, a musical sound that seemed to fill the room with energy. She would hop over Kieran to reach a switch or tilt her head thoughtfully at a blinking panel. Each action was playful, but every so often she discovered something useful. A hidden function, a calibration that Kieran had never noticed. Human. Clever, but I see. New ways, fun. "Learn," she said, pointing to a panel. Kieran leaned over to look. "You're right. That line could redirect power more efficiently. I never thought of that." "You might be better at this than me," Leary giggled. "Better? Maybe. Different. Learn together. Stronger." As they worked, a small alarm suddenly beeped. Kieran's heart skipped a beat. "Wait, that shouldn't happen." "Check the sensors." Leary moved quickly, her fingers flying over the console. "Problem?" "Yes, small. Not danger, we fix." Together, they traced the issue to a minor power fluctuation in one of the old conduits. Kieran adjusted the flow while Leary monitored the readings. Within minutes, the system stabilized and the alarm ceased. Kieran exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and admiration. "You're incredible. I couldn't have done this alone." Leary tilted her head. "Humans, strong, clever, brave. You survive space. Machines, yourself." "I like humans," Kieran smiled. He realized that her admiration wasn't just about technical skill. It was about humanity itself, the ability to endure, adapt, and solve problems in ways that were sometimes messy, sometimes brilliant, but always resourceful. After the minor crisis, they continued exploring. Leary discovered a small vent leading to a maintenance corridor that connected to the outer observation deck. We go. There, see? Stars, big universe. Kieran hesitated. That path is narrow and poorly lit, but okay. If you're careful. Leary hopped lightly into the vent, gesturing for him to follow. He crawled in after her, feeling the thrill of adventure he hadn't experienced in years. The vent was tight, but Leary's laughter made it feel lighter, almost like a game. Finally, they emerged onto the observation deck. The vastness of space stretched out before them, stars twinkling like diamonds on black velvet. Below, the planet's surface glimmered, oceans reflecting light, forests waving gently. Kieran leaned on the railing, feeling a sense of awe he hadn't felt since leaving Earth. Leary floated beside him. Beautiful. Humans make, station, protect, planet, brave, clever, good. Kieran nodded. Yes, we try. But sometimes we forget how extraordinary it is just to survive out here, in space. She turned to him, eyes glowing softly. You, human. Brave, clever, playful, I'm happy to meet you, learn with you. Kieran smiled, realizing how rare this moment was. Here was an alien, playful, curious, and intelligent, standing beside him in the silent vastness of space. They were different, yet connected by the same desire to explore, understand, and create. Suddenly, Leary pointed to a small console tucked in the corner of the deck. What, this? Kieran walked over. That's a sensor hub for monitoring minor meteor activity. Most people ignore it, but sometimes it can warn us of small hazards. Leary examined it closely, tilting her head. Human. Clever, but you missed. Small detail. Fix, yes? She adjusted a few settings and the display lit up with new readings, more precise than Kieran had ever seen. Better. Now learn, together, stronger. Kieran laughed. You're right again. This is amazing. I never thought of that. The rest of the day was spent exploring small, forgotten sections of the station. They discovered old storage rooms filled with spare parts, hidden maintenance tunnels, and even a small hydroponic bay that had been left dormant. Leary touched the plants gently, fascinated by their resilience and growth. Life, everywhere. Humans, clever, protect life, good humans, she said, smiling. Kieran felt a surge of pride. She saw humanity not just for their machines or technology, but for their ability to care, adapt, and create. He realized that humans could be extraordinary in ways they sometimes took for granted. By evening, they returned to Kieran's quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. Leary hopped onto the bed, her eyes still sparkling. Good day. Adventure. Fun. Learn. Yes, Kieran nodded. Yes, best day in a long time. You make it better. She laughed softly. Better gang together. Stronger. Together. Humans. Brave, clever, funny, proud. Kieran leaned back in his chair, reflecting on the day. Leary had shown him not just the station's secrets, but a truth about humanity. Humans were capable of ingenuity, courage, and collaboration, even in the vast emptiness of space. And sometimes it took an outsider's eyes to see it. As the station hummed quietly around them, Kieran realized that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of mysteries, and with Leary by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they could explore, learn, and grow, not just as individuals, but as a team. And for the first time in a long time, Kieran felt a deep sense of hope. Humanity was not alone, and the future was wide open, filled with possibilities waiting to be discovered. The following day began with a soft vibration under the station floor. Kieran woke up quickly. The lights in his quarters flickered once, then steadied. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. That's not normal, he whispered. Across the room, Leary sat cross-legged on the floor, her eyes closed, listening. She opened them slowly, the faint glow in her irises brightening. Something wrong. I feel it, she said softly. Kieran nodded, already pulling up the station's main status display. We've got a power fluctuation in the mid-level conduits, he said. If it spreads, half the station could lose life support. Leary stood, tilting her head. We fix. Together, she said simply. They hurried into the main corridor. The hum of the engines was uneven now, like a heartbeat skipping every few seconds. Other crew members looked worried, but none stopped them as Kieran led Leary toward the engineering deck. He had earned a reputation as someone who could fix anything. Today would test that reputation. When they reached the engineering deck, Kieran's worst fears were confirmed. A power relay hub was glowing faintly and giving off heat. Readouts scrolled warnings in red text. A cooling unit had failed, and if the heat built any further, the main reactor might shut down to protect itself. Leary studied the screens. "So many wires," she murmured. "Too many. But I see a pattern." Kieran grabbed a toolkit. "We have to bypass the failed unit and install a new cooling link, but we can't shut the system off to do it." "That's the hard part," she gave him a confident smile. "Hard part? Fun part." They stepped into the maintenance chamber. The air was warmer here, the walls buzzing faintly with energy. Thick conduits glowed, carrying power through the station like arteries. Kieran opened a panel and pointed. "Here, this is where we work." Leary crouched beside him. Her long fingers hovered over the glowing lines of energy. "Hot," she said softly. "But I can reach." Kieran handed her an insulated tool. "Don't touch anything directly. Even a small shock here could knock you out cold." Leary laughed softly. "I not cold." The next morning, the station's artificial sunrise glowed soft gold through Kieran's window. He blinked awake, stretching stiff arms. For the first time in weeks, the station hummed with a steady rhythm. No alarms, no flickers, no warnings. It felt like a calm before something new. Across the room, Leary was standing perfectly still, facing the stars. Her thin hands were pressed to the window as if she could feel the light of the planet below. She turned slowly when she noticed him watching. "Good morning, human," she said softly. "Today we learn." Kieran smiled at her greeting. "Today, yes. I promise to show you something." She tilted her head. "A secret?" he nodded. "A very old secret. Humans like to share stories about the things they protect. I thought you might like this one." Leary's eyes glimmered. "I like. Tell me." Walking to the observation deck, they left the quarters and walked together to a quiet wing of the station. Most of the crew were at work or asleep, so the corridors were empty except for a few maintenance drones. The low hum of the engines was like a heartbeat under their feet. As they walked, Leary asked question after question. "Why your windows round, not square? Why you drink hot water before sleep? Why you write your name on tools?" Kieran answered as best he could, sometimes laughing at her curiosity. Finally, they reached the observation deck, a large dome of transparent alloy overlooking the planet. Stars burned bright beyond. Below, the world was a swirl of blue, green, and white lit by sunrise. Kieran gestured to a sealed panel at the edge of the dome. "This is the station's memory vault," he said. "Inside are things humans have saved from old Earth: art, music, plants, and seeds. Some of them are extinct down there. We keep them here so they're never lost." Leary's eyes widened. "A seed vault in sky," she whispered. "Like your mind. You keep history safe." Kieran smiled. "Exactly." He placed his hand on the panel and spoke his access code. The panel slid open to reveal a small chamber lined with clear cases. Inside were ancient objects: a piece of painted pottery, a faded cloth banner, a small stone carved with symbols. Leary stepped closer, moving with unexpected reverence. "These things, they very old." "They hum," Kieran blinked. "They what?" She touched the air just above one case. "They hum. Not sound. Energy. Memory. My people say old things sing." Kieran felt a strange warmth in his chest. "We always thought these were just relics. Maybe they're more." Sharing stories, they sat together on the floor of the vault. Kieran opened one of the cases and carefully lifted out a small wooden box. Inside was a folded sheet of paper with faded ink. "This," he said, "is a letter my great-great-grandmother wrote before leaving Earth. She knew she would never return. She wrote about courage and hope and finding new friends among the stars." He handed the paper to Leary. She held it delicately, her long fingers trembling. "I can feel her," she said softly. "Her hope, her fear," Kieran nodded. "That's why we keep these things. They remind us of who we are." Leary looked up at him. "My people do same," she said. "We not write on paper. We sing, we send memory into crystal. When we leave a world, we leave a crystal in sky. It hold our story." Kieran leaned forward, interested. "You have one of those crystals?" Leary reached into the pouch at her waist and pulled out a small shimmering shard. It glowed faintly like starlight trapped in ice. "This is mine," she said. "My first memory crystal. When I left my world, my mother gave it to me. It holds song of our river." She placed the crystal in his palm. He felt a faint vibration, almost like a heartbeat. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Leary smiled. "It is you now." You hold my world. He handed it back carefully. Thank you for trusting me. Learning from each other, for hours they talked, swapping stories. Kieran told her about Earth's first explorers, the cold nights in early spaceflight, the wonder of seeing oceans from orbit. Leary told him about rivers of liquid crystal, forests that sang at night, and how her people learned to travel without ships by bending the space around them. Kieran laughed softly. Your people sound like magic. Leary tilted her head. Not magic, just different science. Like your engines. You call them warp, but to us they are like skipping stones, he chuckled. Skipping stones through space. I like that, she leaned closer. But human special. You use hands. You build, you fix. We admire that. Kieran looked down, embarrassed but proud. We try. A new problem appears. Just as they were finishing their exchange, Kieran's communicator beeped. He frowned. Another alert? He tapped the screen. A message scrolled across. Incoming object, high speed, unknown origin. Leary's eyes narrowed. Not meteor, she said. Something else. Kieran's heart raced. We need to see the scans. They rushed back to the control deck. The station's main display showed a fast-moving object approaching from deep space. It was small but bright, trailing a line of strange energy. Its trajectory would bring it close to the station within an hour. Could be a probe, Kieran muttered. Or debris. Or Hunter, Leary said softly. He looked at her sharply. Hunter? My people. We not alone. Some follow, some hunt. They like take technology. Maybe follow me here. Kieran felt a chill. Why didn't you say anything? She looked ashamed. I not sure. I hope they not find. But now. He grabbed her shoulder. Okay, no blame. We deal with it. Preparing for contact, Kieran called the captain and the senior engineers. Together they planned a defense. The station's shields were still fragile after the recent repairs. If the object turned hostile, they would have to respond quickly. Leary offered her knowledge. If it my people's hunter, they use pulse beam. Weak against layered shield, but strong against single. You must stack, the captain frowned. Stack? She drew a pattern in the air with her fingers. Layer 2 shields but offset frequencies. Like two hands catching one ball. Kieran understood immediately. I can reprogram the shield harmonics. The captain nodded. Do it. For the next 40 minutes, Kieran and Leary worked side by side at the main console. He typed commands. She adjusted energy flows. Their movements almost synchronized. Slowly, the shield display changed from a single glowing band to 2 overlapping patterns. Double shield active, Kieran said. It should hold. Leary placed a hand on his arm. Good, very good. The encounter at last, the object arrived. The crew watched the display in silence. The unknown shape slowed as it neared the station, glowing bright white. It pulsed once, sending out a wave of energy that rippled across the shields. The deck shuddered. Pulse beam? Leary shouted, but the double shields held. The wave broke across them like water against rock. The station remained steady. Kieran grinned. It worked. The object pulsed again, weaker this time. Then, to everyone's surprise, it stopped moving. The glow faded. A small signal blinked on the screen, an open communication channel. They want to talk, Kieran said. Leary nodded slowly. They see we strong. They respect. The captain opened the channel. A strange voice filled the room, echoing like metal and water. It spoke words that no human could understand, but Leary responded in her own language. After a few exchanges, she turned to the captain. They leave, she said. They not fight. They see station protected. They go find easier prey. Relief swept through the control deck. The captain thanked them both. You may have saved us all, she said. Aftermath later, back in Kieran's quarters, they sat together again, both exhausted. The stars outside were calm. The planet below turned slowly, its clouds glowing with sunset. Kieran looked at Leary. They were really after you? She nodded. Maybe, or maybe station. But now they know. Not easy, he exhaled. You gave us a fighting chance. She smiled faintly. You gave shield. I gave pattern, team, he laughed softly. Team, yeah. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Leary pulled out her crystal again and placed it on the table. It glowed brighter than before. What's it doing? Kieran asked. It recording, she said. It take today's story, shield, danger, victory, all go inside. Someday I sing this back to my people. Kieran smiled. Tell them we're not bad for a bunch of tool-using humans. She laughed softly. I tell. They listen. A quiet promise. As the station settled back into routine, Kieran realized how much had changed. Leary was no longer just an alien visitor. She was part of the station's story, part of his story. Together they had shared secrets, built defenses, and faced danger. He turned to her. Whatever comes next, we'll handle it. Together. She met his eyes, her own glowing faintly. Together, she echoed. Outside, the stars stretched on forever, endless and bright. The station glided through them like a small but determined seed, carrying memories, hopes, and the beginnings of an alliance no one had expected. And somewhere deep inside the memory vault, human artifacts and alien crystals sat side by side, holding stories of two worlds now linked by trust. The station floated silently above the blue planet. Its metal skin glowed faintly from the new double shields, a quiet sign of strength. Inside, life returned to routine. But deep in the control deck, Kieran and Leary stayed alert. The visit from the hunter ship had changed everything. Now the station was known and more attention might come. Kieran sat at his console, sipping cold coffee. His eyes moved over status screens, checking power levels, oxygen, and shield strength. Everything looked steady, yet a knot of tension sat in his stomach. Across the deck, Leary stood near the star map. Her hands hovered over the holographic projection, tracing lines of light. She could see patterns no human could. Her eyes glimmered softly,